And we're now live for Polygon Issuance number 92 on the 23rd of January of 2016. This is on a Saturday. Jeff Wilcox is here hosting, and we're going to have Matthew Scheiss coming in here relatively soon. And I'll mention this right now. I think I just broke something because I'm trying to bring up the storm reports. I don't care about wind. Wind? Screw wind. I want snow reports. Stupid thing. And evidently, I put in this report and I exceeded the limit because there's so many snow reports. I think it's because I was doing too many weather service offices. Let's see if I can trim some of these weather offices down. Bye-bye, Charleston, West Virginia. Okay, now it's reloaded again. I'm going to have to drop Blacksburg, too, if I keep going. So bear with me on this, because we'll see what happens with this. But while we wait, which we can't do right now because the computer is busy doing something else. Oops. Nope. I exceeded the 3,000 limit again. Well, good night. Okay. Well, if we get it, the thing over the wind, I'll really freak out. Okay. Stop. Thank you. Okay. The biggest snow report I've seen, which we're going to get into later. And can I? Oh, yes, I can export this. Oh, good Lord, I'm exporting it to Excel. So then I can drop this because it is taking up a lot of space. Okay, this is going to be through.
Hello.
Yes, Matthew, I can hear you now.
Good.
I'm not in the room right now. I'm halfway trying to do this other stuff right now. I'm trying to load stuff. The snow reports from the east. I've already broken something already because there's too many of them, evidently.
There's too many snow reports?
The limit is 3,000, and it's past that already.
Whoa.
And that's just and I had to drop a weather service office, and I still broke the limit.
Which office did you drop?
Charleston, West Virginia.
Oh, really?
I have Baltimore, Blacksburg, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston.
Yikes.
And the heaviest snow, and we're already live, by the way. So the most snow, the largest snow total is 40 inches at Glengarry, West Virginia. So it's in the mountains.
40 inches. Jeez. That's a lot of snow.
Yeah. And since we'll go through that because we're going to have to talk about this storm for a little bit. I'm looking through Winchester, Virginia has 33. There's a bunch with 34, 35, 36. But I'm looking through because I'd put it on the screen share, but I'm really running things crazily right now anyway. Most of the heaviest snow seems to be in western Maryland, West Virginia.
So DC looks to have in relative terms, get spared the absolute
Um,
worst of it.
well, the closest I'm getting now, because now I've gotten down to the 25 to 30-inch range, and I'm getting into the western suburbs of DC, parts of
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore. Now, I think that areas around, I haven't found Dulles yet, but I
Mm-hmm.
know that Reagan National had almost 18 or 19.
That's still a lot of snow.
Yeah. I mean, the most I've ever seen in one single storm is 15. That was the Groundhog Day blizzard 5 years ago, which we're
Oh,
coming up on that because that's coming up next week, the week or a week from next. So,
that was 2010, wasn't it, or 2011?
oh, it was 2011, so it's 5 years ago.
I was deployed to Egypt at that time, and I loved it because I didn't have
Yes,
to shovel.
yeah, you missed out.
Yeah.
All I'll say about that storm is I was living in this building where I'm living now. I was pretty much stranded for 48 hours because you couldn't leave.
Yikes.
Because we had drifts 4 to 5 feet high, blocking every exit out of my apartment building.
Uh,
Dulles has 23 and a half.
wow.
So no planes are leaving.
Is it still snowing there? I've been
It
kind of
is
running
still
around all
snowing
crazy.
in DC.
Wow.
I saw a report just came through about 10, 20 minutes before I started. JFK in New York is at 27.
Wow. That's
And
gonna
they
be a big. That's gonna be a big news story, don't you think? Because a lot of the forecasts leading up didn't have New York getting quite a whole lot of snow.
Yeah, I think the problem is that and this is what I'm going to try to get some people on from out there later on as to wonder, because there was that it was going to be between this storm coming up and a high pressure to the north trying to force dry air in and kind of cut it off. And I
Mm,
don't think they really knew where that cutoff was going to be because it was going to be so sharp
mm-hmm.
from no snow to getting a bunch. So they pretty
Right.
much had to guess. And the problem was the line may have moved about 25 to 30 miles further north. But when you do that, you move the heavy snow 25 to 30 miles north. And instead of New Jersey getting a lot of snow, now you're getting New York getting a bunch of snow.
Yeah.
You look at further north, if you go from New York City and you go north, it really drops precipitously quick.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I just saw,
And that is why I do not deal with snow. I
uh,
don't like even trying to forecast it. It's too
Newark
finicky.
Newark Airport's at 21.
Oh,
So yeah, and LaGuardia is at 20. But that was a few hours ago, so they're probably well up there. And I think too, because of the fetch, especially in Long Island, they always get the fetch from Long Island Sound and
wow.
or the Atlantic, so they get enhanced snow bands and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was seeing a lot of places yesterday from New York City that were predicting that they would get maybe up to a foot. Yeah, that didn't happen. They got way too much.
Yeah, that
Uh,
got blown out of the water pretty quick, I bet.
Central Park in New York City at Central Park is at 19.3.
Wow.
And that report is from, I don't know what time this is from. I'm trying to look. That's whatever it's from. It's from today. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to look at it because I think this is all in UTC. It is. So it's at 19. Okay, and I got to go back to the report again. At 19.3 at 21Z, which would be 3 o'clock.
Yep.
So they are way past 19.3 now. But that was the last report that I saw, at least that I could see going past. But yeah,
Wow.
there's just a lot of it, and I'm done looking at that because there's too much of it. But yeah, there's just quite a bit. But the weird thing is that I'm noticing, because a lot of this is in areas that the snow is sort of tapering off, but in a lot of areas it's picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've gone through and I've not seen any report, and I might do this now because but I've seen wind gusts on shore I did, because they do have that on here. There's the highest wind gust, at least that is here, was 75.
Wow.
That was in Delaware. And there was some areas that were getting the tides were coming in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I noticed some of them broke the record that was set during Sandy.
Yeah, I saw a tweet.
Yeah.
What was it? This was 3 or 4 hours ago, which was the last time I looked at any weather at all, period. Um, I want to say it was Mashable or somebody. It was some large online news service
Yeah.
saying that there are some people calling this Sandy all over again.
It's not. It's a different.
Well, in terms of the flooding and the damage and the experience that they're having to go through.
The tidal flooding, the coastal flooding is similar in some areas, or worse. In other areas, it's not.
Yeah, it's not as widespread either.
No,
Nowhere near
this
as
seems to
widespread.
be in Delaware, New Jersey. Pretty much Jersey is getting. Of all these wind reports, almost all the strong wind reports are either in New Jersey or Delaware,
Mm-hmm.
and
That makes sense.
Then that's about it. As far
And
as
that makes sense with relation to where the center of the low is. So
yeah. And for some reason, I cannot get this to do what I want it to do. So darn for me. Oh well, too bad. I'm not going to look it up anymore. Oh well, I'll just do this. But I'm trying to find the reports from further up, because all I'm doing is New York, Maryland, New Jersey, and whatnot.
mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get it to give me something else. Okay, come on. Okay. Yeah, okay, now I got it. The reports in Connecticut.
Oh.
Fairfield, Greenwich has 11. Bridgeport and Darien have 6.5 to 7. So, but those are fairly old reports. So they're probably up there. They need to get on the ball and start getting some stuff together. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, it's a real mess. Thank God we're not doing it, because I do not want that. Of course, we
No,
don't have
I
an
don't either.
ocean near us either. So
I got a friend, a really old friend that I got to know in high school. He lives right on the border between Kentucky and West Virginia, and he messaged me. What was it? Last night. He drove his big lifted pickup truck to the local Home Depot and bought the last of the salt for his driveway that they had. He wound up spending like $600 on this salt, and he bought almost a ton of it, and he's literally going to be salting everybody's driveways in his neighborhood.
yeah,
And out there, the last thing that he sent me as far as forecast, and this was um, about this time yesterday. Um, he was saying that the people there were calling for up to 18 inches that far inland.
yeah. I saw when I was looking at Charleston, there are some places there around Charleston, West Virginia, that got at least 1.5 to almost 2 feet.
Mm.
The highest one in Massachusetts is at Nantucket Island. Surprise, surprise! It's out in the middle of the ocean. That's 7. But I'm trying to go through, because all I'm doing is Maryland. God, everybody in Maryland must measure snow. Well, we can't go.
They must have the largest Kokoros network of anybody.
Well, some of these are them, and some of these aren't.
Oh, really?
There's like the Weather Service people that are doing it. I'm trying to go through, because I don't want to see all this stuff.
Well, you have to think Maryland in relation to DC, it's closer to the flagpole, so you're going to have a, a lot of more things, I'll say, in that part of the country than in others.
Yeah. Block Island in Rhode Island God, that's a tongue twister. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, say that 10 times fast.
Has 8 inches. So, but that was from earlier. So, but that's enough of that. So, and as that happens, I had to put a cutoff point. There's more. I mean, after that, because I have the bot running. Oh, the National Zoo in D.C. There's a report from there.
Really?
22.2 inches. So that would be in the city of D.C.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, oh darn, JFK just now I got Central Park's new total. It just came in at 6 o'clock our time, or 7 Eastern. 25.1 at Central Park, New York. Kennedy was at 27.1. They had to redo it because that wasn't right. It was 27.7. Because it has the same time, but they had to update it. So, yeah, how many were saying 27? And the funny thing was, and I was seeing models that were saying New York was going to get like 27 and 30 inches of snow, and everybody was throwing them out because they were just completely nuts. And what do you know? The one that was doing that was the NAM. And the NAM, everybody was throwing it out because it was totally crazy.
Well, the NAM, correct me if I'm wrong, the NAM has always been a little bit bullish on snow. It always has been.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people throw it out. Oh, yeah. By the way, Connecticut, I now have a new total. Monroe in Fairfield County, Connecticut's at 21.
Jeez. 20's that far north?
Newark is at 25.7. That's at Newark Airport.
Man.
I mean, yeah, and LaGuardia is at 24.5. Yeah, I don't want to go to any of these places. Staten Island's at 27.1.
No, thank you.
Aren't you glad you're not living there?
Yeah. I still want to go south because I'm still too cold.
Yeah. But
I'm indoors and still wearing a sweatshirt.
At least here it's not overly cold anymore. It's not below 0. I mean, I did a forecast today because I usually don't do forecasting on weekends because I have Henry typically doing that since we're only having 2 people doing it. Mm-hmm. And here's the funny thing. The forecast on Monday here is for rain. It's going to be rain mixed with stuff early in the day and then turn to rain and be in the mid to upper 30s, at least on our side of the state. Western Iowa is going to get snow, and we'll get snow Monday night.
Yeah.
But the storm that I'm worried about is what I've already termed the caucus night storm, which is possibly going to be, if it ends up happening, I've seen it on the models for 5 days. It's been moving all over the place, but the timing is pretty good. It's what it might do is still up in the air because it's still more than a week out.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a somewhat snide remark on Twitter a couple of days ago when I first saw it, and I posted it. And I said, how ironic that we could have a major system come, possibly a snowstorm, on caucus night, and they will have nobody going to caucuses because there'd be what I would consider a blizzard. And then all these presidential candidates spent all this time, all this money running ads, and then there's no caucus because the blizzards come. I would laugh and laugh and laugh because I would find out what would they do, because we've never run into this problem as far as I remember. There has never been a problem with the caucuses due to weather.
As far as I can remember, I can't think of anything. There's been snow days during caucuses, but I haven't heard of any real major issues either.
Like a major snow event or any type of event, because since this is the first time that they finally have said that the Iowa caucus is February 1st, none of this January stuff. Like they did for the last couple of years because everybody wanted to get first and whatnot, and they finally put a kibosh on all these states of saying you have to go by the rules. New Hampshire's this day, Iowa's this day. You can't be in front of these people. That's it. It is Iowa, then New Hampshire, then South Carolina, then I think Nevada, and then you can do whatever you darn want. Because in 2008, or no, yeah, 2008.
Yep.
Remember, Super Tuesday tornado outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
That was on February 5th because everybody wanted to get in and start. And the Iowa caucus that year was the Monday after New Year's, which is ridiculously too early. Although I
Mm-hmm.
think by this point, most Iowans are probably like, can this just be gone already so we don't have to look at the ads anymore? We're still going to hear it in the news about all these candidates, but at least we won't be getting the ads anymore. Because I have not watched local TV in probably 4 months because I refuse to watch it because then I'd have to look at ads, and all that does is make me stressed and pissed off. I don't care who it is, Republican, Democrat, I don't care. I am sick of hearing about it. So
I don't mind watching ads. What I don't like is just the negativity.
well, that's all
I
it
don't
is.
care. Yeah. I I don't I don't care what they did or didn't do. Show me
What they're going to do.
show me what you are going to do and what you think is wrong with our government and our system, and then show me how you're going to fix it.
Yeah.
You have money. You can break it down simply in a 30-second or a 60-second ad. You know,
But
that's I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that thinks that that is not unreasonable.
yeah. So yes, we've turned this weather show into a political show.
Welcome
Everything
to
else,
Political Brains, as James would say.
everything turns political. I saw, and we're going off tangent on here. There was, and then we'll get to talking more about the winter storm, and then what you just had mentioned earlier before you came on.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many. There's a couple articles I keep seeing that have nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with anything. Blah 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 blah. Somehow you get to the comment section, they take anything and make it political. I'm thinking, what does this have to do with Republicans or Democrats or the presidential race? I could care less. Something about, I think there was one about talking about places to go eat or something. And it turned into politics. I'm like, this is about restaurants. What does that have to do with politics?
Did you see the video? I think it was on Facebook of the panda bear at the panda, because pandas aren't bears. I want to say it was at the DC Zoo.
Yeah, it's at the National Zoo. I saw that right before I started.
There was some comments. I can't remember if it was that or another video that I was seeing, but I want to say it was that one. That's where my memory's kind of taken me. There was one person that said, "This is Obama's fault." That was it. I'm like, really? I mean,
Obama's fault that a panda,
is having a wonderful time playing in the snow.
Yes. Well, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Moving on.
Moving on from that, if anybody thinks that Obama is the fault or the Republicans are the fault of this snowstorm, the first thing I'd say is the person that's really at fault is Jonas Miller.
The Nightcrawler.
Yes, he is at fault. It is his fault. We should blame him.
I wonder if that actor is getting a bunch of emails from meteorologists. Yeah, Carrie Elwes. I wonder if he's getting a bunch of emails from meteorologists today.
He's either that or, well, the funny thing is that when I was like, no, I've lost track of what I was going to say again.
Jonas Miller, Nightcrawler.
Yeah, I was making mention of Carrie Elways and Jonas Miller, but if I because I saw that you started on this thing about between you and Brad Panovich and Nate Johnson about Jonas, which is funny as heck. There's a lot of younger people that are saying that this is the Jonas Brothers.
Yeah, that's just not. That just doesn't fit. This is weather.
Weather people, it's Jonas Miller.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about it was that I was thinking, yeah, the Nightcrawler thing, and he's always in for the money. Well, evidently he decided to really cause trouble. when you said something about sniffing, the days of sniffing dirt are over. Well, the problem is with all the snow that's falling, you ain't going to be sniffing any dirt until it melts. And by then it's sniffing mud, and you ain't sniffing that.
Nope.
It's just
I cannot believe that nobody thought of my reply to that comment before me. Like I'm genuinely shocked that I was the first one. He really is in love with himself. I thought it was just a summer thing.
Yeah. The funny thing that I saw, I think this was from a former guest of ours, or mine, because he wasn't on, when I had Scott Sistek on, who's at Como 4 in Seattle, and he had done all these, he did a thing on his, he did a post back in October of the Weather Channel names and rejected things, and he posted it again a day or so ago, and it talked about the one about Jonas being some type of grand entrance or some such thing. And I was wondering if it was making some funny remark that Jonas was probably going to be the biggest storm of the year, which it might be unless you think about the Caucasus Night storm. But there's so many people that are calling it Snowmageddon 2016 or Blizzard of 2016 or Jonas. How many people in 10 years' time are going to remember it being called Jonas? Very few. Some will. But most people will probably call it Snowmageddon again, or because
Snowpocalypse or whatever. Yeah, whatever hot term is going on at the time.
Or whatever's going to happen. Because I'm sure the families of the people that have been killed by this storm, and I think the number is 19 now.
Jeez.
They're not going to be too thrilled about this, about Jonas or about naming it, because their family members got killed. So you're naming a storm to get views, and now this is going to make me mad. You're naming a storm to get all this woo hashtags and all this stuff, and people are getting killed. Yeah, that sounds smart. Why don't we name tornadoes next, because they kill people?
Yeah, why not?
And hurricanes kill people, but so if a hurricane,
we've been naming them since the 50s, though.
Well,
but that's different. I believe naming hurricanes is different because
yeah, it is.
Hurricanes in themselves are a very rare thing on a climatological time scale. I mean, yeah, they happen a lot over the space of 1 year on planet Earth, but they are such an occurrence in weather that I think they deserve a name, because and you could argue this for low pressure systems. You could argue this for thunderstorms if you really wanted to, but each hurricane has its own character, its own little thing.
Yeah.
It has its own, dare I say, personality. So I believe that warrants a name, because that references a specific thing at a specific time and a specific location, which, yes, again, you could argue for other meteorological phenomena, but all this is a low pressure system. It's not something that is that rare.
Yeah.
In statistical terms, you could have 500 low pressure systems before you get a hurricane. I mean, think about that. Hurricanes are worthy of, yeah, there's 2. Well, 3.
Why not?
On one map in one day. And if our people in Atlanta keep having their way, then all 3 of those are going to have their own name.
Well, the problem is the one on the East Coast is, you look at it and it's like, that's a snowstorm. Well, it is, because look at the fetch; it's coming straight off the ocean, so that's why. And it has a lot of action with it. But then you look at the one over the west. Has it been named? No. Why? It's not affecting anybody. Big whoop. oh, it's affecting a ski area in Idaho. Nobody cares. Nobody lives there. But
But that
oh,
ski area is probably getting 45 inches of snow out of it
yeah,
right
the
now.
ski area is like, yay! And the Sierras are like, yay, snow, because they'd be excited. Heck,
And the people in Southern California are probably saying the same thing because that's
because
where
they're
their
going to
water
have
comes
drinking
from.
water.
Yeah.
But I mean, the problem I have with the names, and then there's everybody is naming them everything, because now the UK has started naming storms, no matter if they're winter storms or not. They just name them whatever they feel like. But there needs to be, if you had a snowstorm like the one in the east right now, say over North and South Dakota, it would not get named. Why? Nobody lives there. Well, then, heck, then a hurricane out in the middle of the ocean that never hits anything should never be named either, because it doesn't hit anything. But like you said before, and I even agree, hurricanes are a different story. But why should low pressure centers in the winter be different if it's the same type of system, but one is over New York City and one is over Bismarck? It's hitting people.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing damage. In fact, blizzards in the plains could be much worse, because it closes interstates, especially if you have one over Nebraska and the Dakotas and Minnesota and Iowa. By that point, it's named because it's affecting Minneapolis and Omaha. But at that point, it could close interstates 94, 90, 29, interstate 80. At that point, that's a problem, because that interrupts commerce. Stuff cannot move from point A to point B, because what are you going to tell a semi driver that's trying to get from Chicago to Denver? Sorry, it's not named, so you can go as fast as you want or whatever.
Here's what I'd say. Take I-55 south and go to St. Louis, and then take 70 east or west.
Well,
get around that sucker.
But then the problem is the snow would probably go down further south.
Yeah.
Eventually. It wouldn't be maybe as bad, but Kansas is
If
no.
I were that driver, it would happen to me. I have that luck.
Well, and the thing is about this snowstorm, which I'm going to stop screen sharing because it's driving me nuts already. But anyway, that they had such a terrible time forecasting it, because I already saw some people bitching about this in the South, where this is be around Memphis, Tennessee, where they got about 1 to 2 some inches of snow, and they were predicting a little more than that with some people. But when they finally went and did what it ended up producing, we're being buzzed right now.
Yeah, that was me. I apologize.
He's being buzzed. He's getting another call from somebody more important.
No, it was my Facebook saying you have a new message request.
That's nice. It's not from me. So,
No.
But it was so messed up that I think it was the Weather Service Memphis put it up, or somebody else did. You had a small little heavy band of snow in Arkansas, and then nothing or very little, and then another heavy band, and then nothing. It was so screwy, because there was a small, I think it was like a 20-mile band of snow that done 4 or 6 inches of snow in Arkansas. And Memphis got about 1 inch or 2, where they were projected to get a bit more than that. But it's very fickle, especially in the South.
And
well,
it's fickle everywhere. Snow, period, is fickle everywhere.
Well, people started bitching. Oh, you blew the forecast, they said. And I'm like, no, because the problem is, where are you going to tell where snow is going to form, where the band is going to form, if there's going to be one, if it moves or if it dissipates or whatever. And they were having a problem with the snow mixing with sleet, and sleet is a totally different story, because that could screw up a lot of snow amounts. Or if you had freezing rain, which they had a little bit of, but not a lot, especially for the east in Tennessee they did.
But that just proves that, and not that it's their fault. That just proves just how short a memory the general, non-weather geek public has. What was it? 2013, Alabama had the snow apocalypse or whatever.
Yeah, Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah, they had the 1.2 inches of snow that fell at 19 degrees, and it was, as James Spann called it, a humanitarian crisis, which it genuinely was. There are people stranded in their cars for 24 plus hours and stuff. They couldn't go anywhere. They didn't have any food. They didn't have any water. They didn't have any other way of keeping warm other than keeping their engine running and their gas tank getting more and more empty. But that only happened a couple of years ago. What, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
I think it was 13. Wasn't it 13?
20. It's either 13 or 14. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
And it was less snow than what Memphis got yesterday.
Yeah.
And yet, because the meteorologists in the South don't have that issue of not having a short memory, what seemed to me, they kind of overestimated just a hair in order
On the safe
to
side.
to be on the safe side, in order to get people to get up off the couch and prepare just in case it does get that bad.
Yeah. And the thing about it that I noticed, because they did, but a lot of places did it right. Memphis, I think they got, I think, the amounts right, but it's just, you can't generalize. You have to generalize more or less, because if you tried to do it how it ended up being, people would look at them and go, "What the heck is this?" You get
Mm-hmm.
1 here, but 4 here. It's so isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. And non-weather geek people don't understand that snow can be like that. I mean, for example, and I'll use an example because you live in Marion and I live in Anamosa, both in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Marion could get 20 inches of snow. I could get 10. We're 20 miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
That's how fickle it can be. So are you going to start drawing these lines, the TV people, the weather service, these lines where it says that I'll get 10, you'll get 20?
Mm-hmm.
They'd look at you and say, "What?" I mean, you can't do that. You have to do a generalization. That's why they sometimes will say you could get more or you could get less. I always say that because I don't want to be so specific to say you'll get this and not this, or you'll get this much and that's all you're going to get. You're not going to get more or less. You have to be somewhat general.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be so specific that you're going to get 3.95 inches between 2 a.m. and 4:35 a.m. No, you can't be specific because nobody is that good. And if they are, they better start learning. They better start telling us when the tornadoes are coming. If they're that good to be that precise about snow, then they better tell us when thunderstorms are coming 3 or 4 months ahead.
They need to call me.
Yeah.
They need to call me.
Or tell us when the snow is coming so we can just put blankets and stuff over our driveways and whatnot, so we don't even have to shovel. We can just get it ready, or put out space heaters so they can just melt. But I mean,
yep. That's why, and I consider myself a full-on weather geek, weather nerd. I think I've, for lack of a better term, proved that already.
Yeah.
But I don't even touch winter weather. And I won't do that until I get into meteorology school. Yeah. Because there's so many minutia in establishing a good, solid snow forecast that it's above, to be perfectly blunt, it is completely above my mental ability right now. I do not have the skill of being able to say, this is how much snow you are going to get. This is how much snow that I am going to get. I'm part of a veterans group that's based in Anamosa, and some of the guys will email me, "Hey, how much snow are we going to get?" Happens every year. And or even better yet, they'll ask me, "Well, how's this winter going to be?" I reply to them the same thing every time. It's winter in Iowa. It's going to snow, and you're going to need your jacket.
Yeah.
That's all. That's A, that's all I can do, and B, getting wrapped up in the hyperbole of snowstorms and snow and these ridiculous, 5-month forecasts for snow and everything else. It's just not. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, it doesn't register in my brain why you would want to go out that far to predict the weather. Should we? Yeah, we should move forward and have more skill at longer range, but there should be a certain, I don't know, a certain window where that needs to A, stop, and B, you need to learn more.
Yeah.
And I just don't have, I don't have it. I don't have that ability. So I
Now,
leave it completely alone,
yeah.
other than being able to watch it.
Now, what I have up on my screen right now, this was the snowfall, accumulated snowfall on the GFS back on Thursday. This was through this would be through Sunday at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m.
Okay.
And look right here, it says New York City 3.1 GFS. That was back on Thursday.
What did the NAM show on Thursday?
Well, I'm going to get to that because
okay.
The best thing about this website, the Pivotal Weather and even Tropical Tidbits, is you can go back and look at models. Unlike going to NCEP where you can't, because NCEP refreshes after 24 hours, whereas you can go on Tropical Tidbits and you can go back on models for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Whereas on here you can only go back, I think, 3 days. So let me look at the NAM. Okay, this is the NAM from. Okay, see, here's the NAM. This same time period. That looks better. I mean, now
that looks almost exactly what's happening right now.
Except it has the snow way too far to the north. It has Albany getting that much. I think it has the heavy snow sort of correct, but this is that problem. This cutoff right here.
Yeah.
That is the problem. All the weather people up in New York City, probably in Hartford, Springfield, Boston, that is the problem they had. Is this line right here. Because here you go from 23.8, nothing.
In what?
Nothing.
In the space of what? 60 miles?
Maybe. I mean, you look at this. Well, yeah. I mean, for example, here it has New York City at 24.7. Well, it's already above that.
Mm-hmm.
But and I've been to New York City. I took the Lakeshore Limited Amtrak from Chicago to New York.
Okay.
So I've been in this area. So from just on a train from Albany, which is right here, to New York by train is roughly, because you have to stop, I think it's 4 hours, 4.5, 5 hours. And then up the thruway, the interstate, the tollway to Albany is probably about, give or take traffic, probably about 2.5, 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going from 2 feet of snow to 6. And then just on the other side of Albany, none. Really? I mean, there's that it's that line. You have that is it was not the snow amounts. This you can pretty much tell the heavy snow here. It got forecast properly, the amounts, and it pretty much is in about the right spot. Maybe a tad further south, down here in, let's say, like up in this area, got a lot of snow. Whoops! What the heck? Oopsie! I think I just did something. Oopsie! We don't want that.
Hey, it's QT.
Yeah, this thing you can do SKUTs on that. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if you want to go pivotalweather.com, you can just look at models and go do SKUTs and whatnot. Anyway, down here they got like a lot of snow, more snow than the 22, 24. But
is that pay or is that free?
No, this is free.
Good. So it doesn't have Euro data.
Just the normal Euro data you get that looks like crap.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, if you want that, you have to go to Weatherbelt. And then you can't post it on Twitter. Or there goes the SKUT again. Stupid me and my double clicking. I don't want to see the SKUT chart. But
anyway, quick question on Weatherbill: can you view their data, the Euro data? Obviously not post it, but can you?
Yes, they have
view it for free as a model.
You have to pay for Weatherbell.
Oh, okay.
Because I had their free thing, and then our group had Weatherbell for about 4 months, and then we got rid of it because I wasn't happy with it because I was using it for my weather reports and I didn't like it. So we dropped it. But now there's all these new sites. This Pivotal Weather, Tropical Tidbits has decent stuff. I mean, this is pretty close to being Weatherbell-ish. Not quite, but it's close. And they're getting it better. I think eventually this site, pivotalweather.com, is probably going to go to a paywall. But even if it's $5 a month, I think it would be way better than some of the other stuff. But I mean, the problem was with this storm was this line. And I mean, and this was from 48 hours ago. So let me bump it up to the 0Z NAM from yesterday. If it pops up, and I'm going to have to. Okay, here it is. And now, of course, what you're first going to see is that there's snow down here is a lot lighter. It's because it's already happened, because this started yesterday. But the heavy snow amounts here, Maryland, Virginia, whatnot, are about the same. But you notice New York at 34.7. But look at the cutoff. The cutoff, it now has Albany getting nothing. Massachusetts getting nothing. Connecticut, I think, because it kind of just dies out. I don't think it's really truthful that it dies out. I think it mainly because the air over the ocean is warmer and it keeps the temperatures up, so you can get rain mixed in, something like that.
Yeah.
But this looks probably somewhat accurate now, because the cutoff is the problem here, and it's been moving up and down. So you can't blame somebody for saying, "Oh, New York's going to get 8 to 12, and they got 2 feet plus, and it's still snowing, and it's going to be snowing for at least another 12 to 24 hours."
But what my question is, will it be viewed in the eyes of the public as a bust?
Well, most people that I've noticed over the years, when you say you forecast 8 to 12 and you get 2 to 3 feet, they're like, I think at the support, they're not mad because they were predicting snow anyway. They're mad if you predict 8 to 12 and you get nothing. They are really mad.
Yeah.
They get more mad if you go too high than too low. Unless, in this case, you go way too low and then you start to wonder. Because I noticed this was yesterday. I watched a Facebook video. I won't mention from who, but because I'm trying to get them on the show. and I'll just say they work in New York television. And they were saying, and he was saying that he had started moving the amounts up in New York City because the models were starting to move the snow further north. And he was very concerned that he wasn't sure how far north it would go. So he left it at, I think it was 8 to 12 for New York City. And that areas not far to the south were going to get like 2 feet plus, something like that. And that they would probably have to update it that night, which I didn't know if they did or not, which I think they did.
So he left the door open.
Yes.
He more or less thinking 8 to 12, but it could be a lot more. We're going to have to wait and see. Is that what you're saying?
That was at midday yesterday. And the models, you were still with the NAM, which I'm still showing from yesterday evening. It was still going up and down. You didn't know where that end point was, where it was either here near Poughkeepsie, New York, north of New York City, or up at Albany. Because last night when I was watching the radar, you could see the snow trying to move up into Connecticut and in toward New York City, and it was having a terrible time. It was snowing in New York, but it was fighting
that dry air from the high up to the north.
That's why places like Boston and whatnot, they're like, snow, who cares?
Yep.
But you go down to Providence and they're concerned. Hartford is very concerned. New York City is getting dumped.
Yep.
And that's why there's all these airports are closed. Amtrak is not running. And if Amtrak's not running in New England, which is their bread and butter, and we're going to get into politics again because Amtrak makes money on their Acela Express and Northeast Regionals. That is their money maker. If they're closed for this long a period of time because there's a bunch of snow, they're losing money, which they already are, but they're losing more money. And then the government has to bail them out more, which they pretty much are anyway, because the government is subsidizing the railroads anyway, which I'll say is a good thing, because not a good thing that they're subsidizing, but train travel is so cool because I just love Amtrak. I've been on Amtrak a lot because that was one of my goals in life, to go on an Amtrak train, and I did.
I've never been on a train. A commercial ride from one destination to another.
I went.
But I was a train driver for 4 years at my previous employer. Figure that one out.
Yeah. So I was on, like I mentioned before, Lakeshore Limited that goes from Chicago to New York. Mm-hmm. And then I went on the Northeast Regional to New Haven, Connecticut, where I rented a car and then drove and blah, 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 so on and so forth. Because this gets into a different type of thing that has nothing to do, but I was in New England. So then because I was with my mother, so we came back, got back on the Amtrak in New Haven, and decided we were going to take a nice side trip. So we took the Northeast Regional from New Haven, Connecticut to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And we saw the sights, blah, 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 blah. And then we had to take the overnight Northeast Regional back to Newark Airport, because there's a train stop there, and then back home from Newark. That's the best thing about Amtrak. They stop at Newark Airport and at Baltimore, Washington. So you can get from a plane to a train or the other way around and go anywhere. I'm like, that is perfect for us. So, but anyway, I digress. So, but trains, they make money because those trains, the Northeast Regionals or the Acellas, money, money, money. There are people packed in. That overnight train that I took, there must have been, and this left DC, Union Station in DC at like 2 a.m. And it was full.
Wow.
From DC at 2 a.m. Union Station at 2 a.m. Everything's closed. The food court's closed. The shops are closed. Everything's closed. But the waiting room was full because there were so many people wanting to get on, because they have trains coming in and taking and leaving at all hours. But they make money, and if there's snow, they don't make money, and then you got angry customers. So a snowstorm like this, now DC, they had already said that there was going to be snow, big bad weather. New York canceled all their flights. Newark Airport canceled all their flights. All these flights are canceled, and they, I think, tried to get as many of the planes away from the area as possible. At least the ones that were going to fly back to New York or Newark or DC, they just kept them wherever they were or going to.
Right.
And then they'll just start up from the flight coming back to get the passengers that need to leave. But this is going to be an economic mess because there's so many people that need to get somewhere and whatnot.
Weather's big.
Yes. So if you want to then swing it back around to the Panda video of Obama's blamed, technically speaking, this will probably end up being Obama's fault in political terms, because the government's shut down, which actually saves the government money, I might add. Because if the government's shut down, you don't have to pay them. And the first thing I do is don't pay the Congress people, because they don't work on Saturday anyway, so don't pay them. But the only thing you would need to have them do is plow the national park type stuff, the monuments and whatnot and all that stuff. But you don't need to pay anybody else. The government workers don't come in on Saturday, and if they do, they shouldn't have come into work to begin with, and I don't think they did. So that's
I wouldn't imagine that.
Yeah, nobody's going to, because when I was seeing videos of fire trucks getting stuck, that's serious business. If fire trucks and police people can't get to you, then there's no need for government officials to be going somewhere.
You got problems, or you could have problems pretty quickly.
Oh, and then I saw another thing. I saw this on Twitter before we started. The National Guard had to go to the Weather Service office at Sterling, Virginia, which is the Washington, D.C., Baltimore office, to rescue the meteorologists that were stuck at the Weather Service office.
Yeah.
Because they had to do a shift change. Because you can't have the weather people working 24 hours. So
Yeah.
they had to bring in the new people and get the old people out of there. So, and probably to even feed them, because if there's nothing at the Weather Service offices, they're
Actually,
fed.
I've heard something somewhere. Wow, I'm getting a bad echo.
From me, you,
Yeah, it's coming back to me.
just
It's
a
gone
minute.
now.
Is it gone now?
Yeah, it's gone now. But I I either heard or read somewhere that that most National Weather Service offices actually have like some extra food laying around and cots and stuff, just in case something really bad were to happen, where they would be somewhat self-sufficient for a little while they got dug out or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be. So I don't think they're sitting there completely helpless. They just might be a little bit strained and tired.
Yeah. But the thing that I always am concerned about is that Weather Service people are they're hardy. I mean, they only work 8-hour shifts to begin with, and I think at the Weather Service office in Sterling, at least, or any of them at Mount Holly, or the one up to New York, which is New York City's office, et cetera, they're working longer than 8 hours. They probably were working, in some cases, probably 24-hour shifts.
Oh yeah.
And they probably had all hands on deck. At least they had 2 shifts. One is off, one's on. And they were working 24-hour shifts. Well, giving the fact that they're having to do blizzard warnings, winter storm warnings, all these updates, coastal flooding in cases of like Upton office or Mount Holly's, all this stuff, and you're trying to do this while you have to do your other work, like the forecast, grids, and all that stuff, because that has to be done. You can't just say, oh, we don't need to do that. You have to do that too.
Yep.
All this
mandate
stuff needs to be done. The normal everyday stuff has to be done, along with the blizzard warnings, all this stuff, talking to people, getting reports. You have to have multiple people. And this goes back to politics. We're bringing it back to politics because in hindsight, the Weather Service has been underfunded for getting people into it. Now, I'm not talking about all this stuff that they've been spending money and wasting money on. They need to be spending the money on getting people in the offices so you can have full staffs at these offices, especially during events like this one. And that also would include severe weather outbreaks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not just for Weather Service offices. That'd be for the Hurricane Center during hurricane season and the Storm Prediction Center pretty much all year long. Because, I mean, when we had tornadoes in December, we can have tornadoes any time of the year. If it's a day in the year, it's tornado season somewhere. And there was tornado warnings in California today. So,
and Florida yesterday. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a tornado death in Florida either yesterday or the day before.
I can't remember. I'm right now looking up. I'm looking up the Caucasus Day storm thing right now, which is very hard to look at because I have it off screen right now because I have the accumulated snow all the way through to that day.
Oh.
And it's still bouncing around, but it's still there. So I'm not going to show that because I'm going to X that out. But anyway, it still shows it might do something, but I'll look at that later because I have to do a report later tonight anyway. So we have that storm taking place. Nothing else is happening. I mean,
pretty quiet other than the tornado warning in California.
Well, quiet here because nothing's happening. It was sunny. There was sunshine. I saw sun today.
Yeah, it was beautiful today for January.
Nah, because if it's beautiful here, it's messy somewhere else, and unfortunately, it's the east.
Unfortunately, it's really messy there.
Well, the thing about it with here is that typically when there's like this big, humongous storm in the east, typically here it's cold, and it's not, which is very odd. Because that made me think if there's going to be a major snowstorm in the east, this was a few days ago, I thought, wouldn't it be getting cold here? And the answer is no, it's not getting cold. It's actually getting warmer, which makes no absolute sense to me. Because typically when we've always had these big, humongous nor'easters, because this is pretty much a nor'easter, you get temperatures here are cold. Well, this is pretty shallow. I would say one of these troughs that's digging in, that it's one of these progressive type things where it's like moving. Everything's moving real quick.
It's an Alberta Clipper.
Cold air comes in, it's gone. Because it's going to be in the 30s tomorrow. It's going to be in the 30s on Monday.
Let me ask you this.
Like heaven.
Let me ask you this. Where's the wind blowing out of right now? Here.
Here?
Yeah.
I have to look. Because right now I don't.
Because that'll tell the story, I think.
Well, let me look. A person with me not knowing where the wind direction is. I could go outside, but it's dark. But I'm just happy it's nice out, because I don't like all, except tomorrow and tomorrow night and Monday it's going to be freezing rain, sleet, snow. Bleh.
I hope all that happens, because I don't want to work Monday.
Yeah, yes, he doesn't want to work. He wants to be fired.
No, I won't be fired. I'll just have a weather day, because I do concrete. And we're still working, believe it or not. Almost the end of January, and we're still pouring. In fact, we have a large pour scheduled for Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be wet. The wind near me is southerly.
Yep. There's your devil.
It's supposed to be, we're not going to see the sun for several days, according to the forecast that I have here. But
that means we're getting warmth and moisture from the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, the flow is in the upper levels. The flow is west-east, pretty much.
Okay, so zonal flow. It's
going to be what you would consider Pacific air. Which in El Nino years here, we typically get a lot of Pacific air where it's not Arctic like we had last week. It's typically Pacific air where the wind comes out. You get the Chinook flow in the plains where the temperatures in the Dakotas could jump to 50.
Yeah.
And even down in Kansas, it could get into the 60s. Yep. And everybody's screaming global warming. And I'm thinking, no, it's Chinook. It's going to get warm. I don't care if it's January. It happens. It's happened before. It's happened back in the 1800s. But it's because Chinooks happen. I mean, heck, I'm surprised they didn't all scream bloody murder when Calgary, Alberta was 50 degrees the other day. Because they're right next to the mountains. So the flow comes down. Temperature jumps up to about 50 or 10 Celsius, because they're in Celsius. But anyway, because I'm looking at the forecast from the Weather Service, the coldest high temperature for the next 7 days here is 26, and the warmest is 39. The coldest low is 16, and that's Tuesday night. I'm like, I'm not fussing. I'm happy with these temperatures.
I agree. I like that.
I mean, it's January. It's cold. It's supposed to be cold. I'm like, I'll take 20. I'll take highs in the 20s to low 30s and lows in the teens to lower 20s. It's above normal, but I'll take that over 10 or 20 below zero. My truck won't start, even though it did. Thank God. I knocked on wood because I don't want it to. I've already had so many battery problems. I don't want to have.
I'm doing the same thing.
Yes.
My truck is on its last leg. I do not want thing to fail.
So now your truck's on its last legs. My truck had a flat tire. I have had, and I did this on Twitter. I don't know what it is. I think it was because of the cold air we had when the temperature plummeted below zero, and my tire went down, and it probably really went down the other night because somebody came and had to put air in it because you couldn't drive it because it was flat. But this was my second flat tire in like 2 months.
Cold air.
And there's nothing wrong with the tires.
Cold air.
Yeah, it's cold air. Because I was going to get around to putting air in it when it warmed up a little more. Well, I never got around to that because I was going to do that yesterday, and it was flat. Darn. Because I don't really want to be outside. Wind's blowing. It's 10 or 15, and you're trying to put air in the tire. because you'd be lucky if that even works. So, and it drives me just bonkers with that, especially when where I live. Well, when I went to my parents, the streets in my town, especially the side streets, are horrendously icy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm driving down my parents' street, and I'm going like 10 miles an hour, and I'm out of control because I cannot stop.
Mm-hmm.
And this was only 3 days ago. And I'm out of control at 10 miles an hour, about ready to hit things. And I'm thinking, we had the littlest, tiniest bit of snow the other day.
Mm-hmm.
The littlest tiny bit of snow on a street that's not very well done means you have an ice rink as a street.
Yep.
So it drives me just bonkers when I have to go up there. So I'm happy with these temperatures because it's going to melt the snow, even though it's going to refreeze every night, but it'll start to get better, and you'll be able to drive on, especially these side streets, because the side streets, not every town can have their streets at bare pavement. I mean, if they do, you're going to be paying high taxes.
Yep. And explain Marion, because my street is somewhat of a side street, and I'm right in the middle of downtown, and my street was only plowed once when we had that larger snowstorm. There's a bunch of ice sitting on my street, but yet I'm not going to get into that. That'll get me really upset.
He's going to go after the mayor guy.
No, don't say that. No, don't say that, because there's a military Facebook page that I follow. And there was one of the posts that came up was about how this guy was upset that he wasn't being allowed to leave at the normal time. And he said, if they don't let me out, at this time, I'm going to pick up my M4 and I'm going to become an active shooter. And and all of the comments after that are like, you are an idiot. You are an idiot. That's all you read in the comments. You are an idiot. You are a bleeping idiot. Just 10, 20, 30, 40 comments. That's all it said. So no, I am not going after him. I will be very unhappy with him, but I'm not going after him. I'm not saying that on a live broadcast.
There'd be some people that would want to. I'm not talking about in Marion or anywhere else, but in bigger cities like during the snowstorm.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to Snowmageddon in Georgia and Atlanta, and they messed up. But and then this brings up another point, and I'll mention this again. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago when you were on, that Span got nailed again by some, and I think he posted this or something, that some woman, I think it was a woman, complained that he always interrupts General Hospital.
I saw that.
And it's like, you couldn't interrupt any other thing, but you have to interrupt General Hospital. And then she started ripping about the station's stuff that they put on, saying it's a bunch of crap programming. Why can't you interrupt that? But you have to interrupt General Hospital. I'm thinking, and she said, I know you've seen it because you mentioned it, that she says, if this was I can understand if it was a quote emergency like a tornado, but it's a little cold rain, whoop-dee. Well, this brings back to I was thinking Armageddon. Snowmageddon, 1.6 inches of snow in Birmingham. Look what happened. You want to take the chance that cold rain could turn into freezing rain and eventually snow, and then you have that again, and you're not telling people, but you want to watch your General Hospital.
You want to interrupt my stories.
Don't interrupt my story. The first thing I'd say is, well, your story, it may not be on in 5 years because soap operas are going away anyway. So she better get her story filled now because she may not get it in 5 years. So, but yeah.
They do realize that they release those on DVD, don't they? I hope they do.
Soap operas?
Yes.
They do?
As far as I know.
I don't think a soap opera like General Hospital or Days of Our Lives or Young and the Restless. I mean, good grief. Days of Our Lives has like 10,000 episodes, 12,000 episodes. That'd be awfully big DVDs to get that many episodes to do that.
Yeah.
I know it's on streaming. I think it's on Hulu. I think you can stream stuff now. A lot of the soaps now are streamed.
Wow.
That you can watch them back because you can't always watch them. It brings back up the point of the back when you were interrupting the back 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Span interrupting a basketball game for tornadoes. It brings up back to the same story about all shows except for syndicated shows because that's a problem. Although I think some syndicated shows you can actually watch the show like a day later. Some, not all. In fact, most don't, but some do. Or some will air it again if the station is allowed to, similar to like primetime shows.
Yeah, they'll have some sort of agreement set up ahead of time where they just say, well, we'll air it at 11:35 p.m. or we'll air it this time tomorrow or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But some people are just all bent out of shape that, oh, I missed my show and whatever it is. But that woman just lit in. It's like she could care less about the Chew, which I actually like, or the Fab Life, which has already been canceled anyway because that show's been canceled by ABC and Disney anyway. So, I mean, there's all these shows that are what I'd call worth interrupting, and most of them need to be interrupted. So, but I digress. We're going off track again. Now we're talking about programming.
I just don't watch that much TV.
Yeah, it's not.
I know what the Chew is. I've never seen it.
Cooking.
I know there. Yeah, I know. I know it's cooking. That's about all I know about it.
All it is here you can make all this stuff, and it costs like $100 to make 1 minute meal. I'm like, yeah. For who? Rich people? How many rich people are watching this? Rich people would be at work. They ain't watching the Chew at noon or 1 Eastern time. They're at work. The people who are at home are typically stay-at-home moms in some cases, or people or seniors. And it's not like they have money. In most cases. Some do, but most don't. The money in this case to make this humongous stuff that costs like 100. And then they have ingredients that are like, I have never heard of these. I don't think I could get them within 20 miles of me. So I digress. We went off on cooking and shows and programs.
Speaking of cooking, Bill Murray actually named me a few, what was it? Probably 7 or 8 months ago, actually named me the chief food officer for Weatherbrains.
Oh, good grief.
I'm kind of proud of that. I tweeted out a photo of Scorpion Pizza being served at the Calgary Stampede, and
he was up there not that long ago.
And he this was last year's Stampede, and he was there, and he's like, "Ooh, I might have to go try that." And he said something else about weird food, and then I sent him another reply saying that that I had once tried camel cordon bleu from a rather sketchy looking street cart in Cairo, Egypt, when I was deployed there. And he's like, "Wow, you are now officially guest food officer for Weatherbrains." Or no, the weird food officer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, weird. I sent them years ago talking about pig ears and and stuff, which there used to be a place in Cedar Rapids that you could do that, but it's not there now. That you could actually order that. And I thought it was disgusting, but I mean, you look at stuff like pig's feet is normal now because I've seen that in
pickled pig's feet.
Pig's feet's normal, but to people it'd be like that's disgusting. But I look at it, it's like, ooh, it's like, yeah, whatever. But anyway, now we've gone off on food again. So, but you wanted to discuss before we get off of this because we're going off on a tangent about something that occurred.
Yeah, today's a pretty a pretty important, and as I said before, it's important to me, anniversary from down in Alabama, down in James Span's territory. Um, Back in 2012, there was a pre-dawn tornado um,
Yeah.
in north central Alabama, and this is what made me kind of decide to go, and not really pursue weather professionally, but it made me decide to kind of get into more of the communication side of things. There's a pre-dawn tornado. It went through a small town and
There was
killed a.
more, there was multiple tornadoes, I might add.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but this one specific one killed a 16-year-old girl by the name of Christina Heichelbeck.
Yeah.
Um, I watched, I don't know if it was a documentary or something about that event that was put on by James's station. And for some reason, I don't know why, I don't know the family, I don't know, who she was. I've never met them or anything, but for some reason, it kind of stuck with me. And I watched a little presentation that uh, Mr. Span did about it, and him going off on his tornado siren tirade that he did
Yeah.
after April 27th about how all sirens should be taken down and burned, that whole thing. And that really stuck with me, the fact that here's this extremely smart 16-year-old girl, you know, um, from what I can remember, she was like a straight A student, just the best kid. And she was killed because of this, siren, as James said, the siren mentality.
Yeah.
You know, she died thinking that she should be able to hear a siren at 4 a.m.
Her and her family.
Yeah, yep. Her parents, they said that they didn't hear the siren, they didn't hear any warning, and the next thing they know, their daughter's
Their
gone,
house
and
is blowing away.
their house is blown away, and their daughter's, no longer with them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That really stuck with me, and I found a picture um, of her off of James Span's Twitter feed, um, and I saved the picture. I'm not gonna broadcast or anything or show it because I don't have permission from her family or James, but
Yeah.
B, it wouldn't be really a very respectful thing to do because I don't know this. I didn't know this girl, but um, I'm saving it for myself just to kind of remind me as I go through what I'm about to go through over the next few years, why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that's, but that was today in 2012. That was what, 4 years ago now?
Yeah.
That was 4 years ago, and that's what made me kind of wind up here in a roundabout way. So that's all I had about that.
The interesting thing about that event, and I'll mention this, I actually was watching the live stream that night.
Really?
Yeah. I
Wow.
actually watched the whole up until they started at like I think 11 o'clock the night before, or even
Mm-hmm.
I think right after the 10 o'clock news. That was on a Sunday night into Monday, and I started watching I think at 11 or 11:30, and there was nothing going on. There were
Mm-hmm.
storms out in Mississippi, and they stayed on. They're like, oh, we'll just do this because it was what I would consider the first what I would call event since April 27th. So
Right.
everybody's freaking out and scared, as they probably well should have been to a certain extent. Not
Mm-hmm.
freaking out, but concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And so nothing's happening, blah, 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 blah. The first tornado warning wasn't until 2 in the morning, maybe 1:32 o'clock. It was like 1:32. And it was this storm, and there was only like a few storms. There were not many. It was just a couple storms. And they're like, tornado warnings. Nothing happened until it was north of Tuscaloosa, and then there was like reports of trees down, power lines down, blah, blah, blah. That
Mm-hmm.
storm went up and went to Oak Grove.
That's where she lived.
No,
I
no,
think.
the Christina girl lived in Clay. I do know that.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Clay.
she lived in Clay, Alabama. But Oak Grove, tornado. It killed an elderly person because there was 2 deaths. Christina was one. This elderly person in Oak Grove was the other. And the tornado went and then it lifted right just somewhere west of 65. And then there's the video of John Brown. I'd love to have on at Interstate 65 looking, and you see all the storm coming in, and then you see a power flash and everything goes black except for the cars down the interstate.
Right.
And they, Span and them, were not watching. But then all of a sudden, all these people, as I was watching the stream that had a chat room in it, all the chat room went completely nuts. Like, oh my gosh, what was that? Was that a power flash? Span saw it, saw the chat going completely nuts, and he must have gotten Twitter messages about power flash. And then all of a sudden, you started getting reports that stuff is trees down again, and that's when the tornado that eventually took Christina's life started at Fultondale. It went up through Clay and that area, Pinson and all those areas in the north of Birmingham.
Yep.
And stuff was just getting literally destroyed everywhere. And they started talking about doing triage centers and all this stuff, which sounded horrendously bad for all this stuff. And as this was taking place, that tornado lasted 25 minutes. And this was by this point almost 3:45 in the morning. And then you had the storm south of Birmingham that they actually caught a power flash on that from one of the webcams at Clanton. And they started freaking out more. And Span started pretty much just what I would call quote unquote screaming at people. I eventually stopped watching it at 7 a.m. and they were still doing tornado warnings at 7 a.m.
Wow.
The next day. And there was tornadoes until after the last warning, I think was at like 8. And I stopped then and went to bed. And they unfortunately probably did the wrong thing. They did a weather brains that night.
They did?
They did. I believe they did. You'd have to go back and look. I think they did. And I'd have to think because they might have done it that night or the next because there was no severe weather the rest of the day. The storm was gone. By that night, nothing happened. There was nothing left. But yeah, it was either that night or the next night. I don't remember. But there was a lot of about that. Because whoa. No, because that is when the Diane Sawyer thing said it came without warning.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I think that's what set James off. That was, I think, that night, the Monday evening, when she said it came with no warning. And that's when Span went off. And that happened. Yes, so they did do a weather brains that night because the first thing Span talked about was Diane Sawyer. So anytime you hear about Diane Sawyer, it's that event 4 years ago.
Yep. That makes sense. And now that my memory's sort of coming back, I need to explain something. I keep saying if memory serves me, as you know, I'm a combat veteran, and I got into a little accident when I was in Iraq. I was part of a Humvee rollover, and I hit my head pretty good. I had my helmet on, but I still hit my head pretty good. So I have traumatic brain injuries, and my brain sometimes just kind of decides you're not going to remember this anymore. So in case anybody was wondering, that is why. I'm doing the best I can. I'm not trying to just make stuff up and just covering it up by if memory serves me. It's just literally my memory is not all that great because of that. So to clear that up. But if memory does serve me correctly, I remember going back a couple years ago and trying to find that episode. And I found it, and that's when I first learned about the whole Diane Sawyer thing.
Yeah, and they still talk about it even.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back that far. But So, and they still go after her, and she's not even on the news anymore. What are they going to do? Go after David Muir? At least, and Ginger's
I don't think
out there.
I don't think they're going after her per se. I think they're just going after
The national news, anything.
the national media.
Like the 97 gazillion people in the path.
Yeah, that thing. The hype and hyperbole is, to me, it looks like it's out of hand. The monster storm, millions in the path thing. It seems like that happens, and I'm probably exaggerating, but I don't think by very far. It seems like that's happening with every little shortwave that comes through.
If
Somebody's saying it's a monster storm.
If it's a tiddlywink Alberta Clipper, they'll say gazillions are in the path, and it dumps an inch of snow. Yeah. Ooh, an inch of snow. Now, if it's an inch of snow in Birmingham, it's serious. An inch of snow here, it's like, go to school.
Yeah.
Go to work, because the roads may be a little bit slippery, especially on roads that are not treated that well, but you can get stuck anywhere.
We can deal with that. Atlanta,
unless Birmingham. It's the first snow of the year, then people drive like it's the end of the world. Because people in the South don't realize that, yes, up here, if it's the first snow, people will crash. There will be accidents everywhere. It just so happened to be this year, our first storm so far has been the biggest. Mm-hmm. The one in November where it dumped 7 to 10 or 12 some inches of snow all over the place. And then you had a ton of accidents, but then we had a bunch of snow. And everybody was used to it. So then when we had more snow after that, you saw less of them. Mm-hmm. Still had accidents, mainly from out-of-state people who didn't know what they were doing, or people who still
just had bad luck.
Yeah. Because it's always the first snow. There's accidents everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's Iowa or Kentucky or wherever. First snow, you're going to have an accident. If it's like the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th storm, you may get fender benders, or you may get minor accidents, but it won't be because of speed unless you're asking for a death wish or something. But other than that, it's not. Most of them are not serious by the time you get to February. Yep. But
hopefully not anyway.
But if we have this storm that's coming up maybe a week from Monday on caucus night, that's going to be so heavily hyped up if that was to occur, because it would happen to hit us, and it would happen to hit around the time there's going to be all these presidential candidates in here going, yay, I finished third, or yay, I won. And then I'll be...
You might upset them.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see them try and leave if they get stuck here for a day or so and they can't get to New Hampshire.
I just got the worst idea, and maybe I shouldn't mention it, but I'm going to anyways. You should tweet out to all the candidates, Ted Cruz, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders. Tweet out an image of the CFS V2 that goes all the way out there.
In about a month or two, the CFS will go out to election day.
Oh, really?
I think those models go out 10 months, something like that. I'd have to go.
You should tweet out a CFS V2 for like a 196-hour snow depth or something.
Why do I want to do 196 hours on that? I could do that on the GFS. I have GFS. I can do snow depth on GFS to 384. Because GFS has that. But if I wanted to do like the climate models, they go out 8, 9, 10 months every day.
I just think it'd be really funny to have all the candidates see that, and then just have like one word or one line: beware.
No, I would say no. If we get to the caucus, if caucus night, because I would hope to gosh that the state Democrat and Republican parties have a thing of, if caucus night and there's a big snowstorm, they're not forcing people to go to a caucus and endanger their lives. At that point, I'd start to think, A, that they're really serious about their candidate, and B, they're really serious about possibly not being around for election day. Because I'd start to think, do they have a thing where they could move the caucus to the next night on Tuesday night, which would mean another 24 hours of ads? But I don't think they have some type of setup that if that was to occur, that they would do something. because I don't think I'd want to hear about people being killed in accidents going to or coming from caucuses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
I
process, and I'm luckily I'm an independent, so I don't have to go to a caucus. And I'll say that I'm an independent, and there's a reason why, because I do not want to have people come into my house. Well, except that they will anyway. They haven't, but I don't want to do any party because I don't want to be connected to any party because I think they're both screwed up anyway. So that's my thing, politics. But so in the case with an independent like me, I don't need to go to the caucus because I'm not going to put myself into either the Democrats or the Republicans. And I don't want to. And there's a lot of people in this state that are independents. So those people are left out. So you're pretty much just having what, a third, well, let's see, probably 60%, not even that, maybe. So I'm thinking independence is actually the highest thing in the state, followed by Republicans and then Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
So all these people are catering to roughly 60% of the state.
Right.
60% of eligible voters. Because there's at least 35, 40% that are independents that can't go to the caucuses unless they change their party affiliation, which if they did that, they would change it on caucus night and then change it back, which you can do. But I don't know if you want to put up with the process of having to do that, because that would be ridiculously stupid. But oh well. Politics is over now. So other than that, nothing much going on elsewhere. No.
ChaserCon started.
Oh yeah,
ChaserCon.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, they're all down in Norman getting drunk.
I wish I were there.
No. Well, they're it's surprising. Yeah, but the number one chaser's not there. That would be Reed Timmer.
I don't want to see him.
Yeah, but I'm being sarcastic.
Oh.
But yeah, he is in DC getting snowed on.
Yep. Which is fine with me.
The
reason why that I want to see it, the reason why that I want to go to ChaserCon so bad every year is because I like hearing from like Dr. Greg Forbes, who I think was a keynote speaker today, and like Tim Marshall. I love hearing him talk.
Tim Marshall,
I could sit and
Iowa this year.
Huh?
Of course, Tim Marshall will be at the thing in Ankeny this year.
Yes, and I am going to try like heck to go. What is it? Who are some others that I like to hear speak?
Roger Hill is pretty much the one that is the one running it now.
Yeah, he's the ringleader.
Since Tim has passed away.
Yep. Roger Hill, Rick Smith, I can listen to him talk all day. Greg Carbon, I can listen to him talk all day long too. Who's the other one? There's another one that I could listen to all day long. He's not here with us anymore, but Dr. Al Mohler.
Yeah.
I could listen to him talk forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Him and Chuck Doswell. And Chuck Doswell is my hero.
Well, I'll just for the benefit, I'm going to actually bring up the agenda. Gary England was the speaker.
At this year's?
Yeah.
Cool.
In fact, he is actually talking right now. He is the evening keynote right now. That's probably why nobody wants to watch. He's the keynote for the next half hour.
And let me guess, it's being broadcast.
Yep. It's on right now.
Should have done this last night.
Yeah. But here are the people that were on, because ChaserCon goes through Sunday afternoon. Because Roger Hill is going to be talking Sunday morning. But you had the survey team from El Reno, Howard Bluestein, who I tried to get on this program and he told me no because he's too busy. Greg Forbes was there today. Dr. Jason Persoff was there. Greg Carbon, Tim Marshall. Gary England is on right now as of the moment. tomorrow with Roger Hill, Chris Novi, Blake Naftil. Blake Naftil is doing the storm chasing anthology thing. He's done all these interviews. He's sort of kind of a thing where I want from when I started the show, it was somewhat similar to how he does it with all these interview type things. And Rick Smith is the last one. So that's who's there.
Surprised they don't have Chuck Doswell.
No, Chuck's going to be Chuck Doswell would not be caught dead with storm chasers because he thinks a lot of them are just crazy people.
But he goes to ChaserCon.
Once he probably is there, but he's not talking because he's going to be in Iowa. He's one of the keynotes in the severe weather thing up in Ankeny.
Mm-hmm.
Because Iowa people, we stole him. So
I like that. I'll go with that. We stole him.
Yeah.
We
Tim
get to
Marshall,
keep him for a while.
I like that. Tim Marshall called his thing 2015 a rock and roll chase year.
I like that.
Well, damn, I should get Tim back on the program again. But
I would definitely have a fanboy moment if that happened.
Oh, good grief. Okay, then go and look at my old episode when Tim was on. I mean, good grief, people. I mean, in fact, if I let me go back and look to see what episode that was. That was episode number, what is it? Blah, 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 blah. Episode number 53. That was back from April.
In April?
Yeah, April. It was show number 53. That's when he was on.
We need to have him back.
Yeah.
That guy's awesome. I can't tell you how many hours of YouTube video that I have watched of his.
Oh, yeah, we discussed that.
Yeah.
But I digress. We're getting off subject again because one of these days I'm going to have to start getting all this collection together for the 100th episode that's coming up. Heaven forbid. It'd probably take me from now until the 100th episode to get a thing together. So,
are we doing anything? Are we having anybody on for the 100th episode?
I probably not at this rate. I don't know. I'm trying to get people to be on to begin with. So the 100th episode as of right now, because speaking of who's going to be on, Ashton Altieri, the Ashton guy.
From Dallas.
Yes. He'll be on next Sunday because that's when he's not busy. So he'll be on there. We'll probably am going to talk about the tornadoes back in late December because he's only going to be he's only available for a shorter period of time. So I'm trying to eke him into trying to do 2 parts, 1 part on next Sunday and then another part to talk about his career. So I'm trying to get him to do a second part on another day. So
cool.
And then there's other people that I'm thinking of then emailing with regards to the snowstorm that's taking place right now, including a certain person possibly in New York, which I had to then email another former guest of mine to try to get a hold of that person because I couldn't get a hold of the other person because they're like secretive. And you have a Facebook message.
Yep.
It's probably from Gary England and or fanboy Tim Marshall.
I would only wish I had their phone numbers.
Oh, I could get real sneaky. I could get real sneaky and invite Tim Marshall in here because he's in my circles.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, but he's busy. So anyway, so that's what we have going right now. Scheduled the 100th episode is scheduled for around the 18th of March, which is a Friday, around the 18th or 19th, depending on if we want to do it on a Friday or Saturday, whatever. So
we need to try it. That's right around the start of tornado season.
Yeah.
Well, the spring tornado season. I'll say that.
True. It's tornado season here. I mean, we could have tornadoes any time of the year.
Right.
Let's go back and look at.
That's why I say the spring, because there's a noticeable uptick in tornado frequency starting around that time.
Well, I only mention that because I have to go bring my book out. So just a second. I had to... Okay, right here, because we're coming up on the anniversary again. Today is what, the 23rd? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All you have to do is, wait a minute, let me make sure I bring the screen back up. Good. Is go back and look at January 24th, 1967 in Iowa. I'm not going to force you to remember that because you're not.
Right. But I remember reading about that day. That was a tornado outbreak.
Yes. The temperature, and I'm reading it in this book. The temperature at noon in Des Moines, noon, January 24th, 1967, noon. Have that in picture?
Mm-hmm.
January 24th, noon. Temperature in Des Moines was, wait a minute, 62.
Wow.
Temperature in Sioux City, 24.
That reminds me of November 17, 2013.
Yeah. The day of the tornadoes in Illinois.
Yeah. I remember I chased that day, and excuse me, and right as I was getting into the town of Morris, this is 30 minutes after Washington had been hit by the EF4.
Yeah.
I was obviously on that storm. I was in the town of Morris, and I was starting to complete the very, very not smart move of core punching from the north to get down and try and see it. And I got a call from my wife, and she asked, how's it going? This, that, blah, blah, blah. And I asked her what the temperature was there, at our home here. And she said it was 27. And there, where I was in Morris, it was 71.
I'll mention the day that on that day, January 24th, 1967, there were 32 tornadoes.
In Iowa or in total?
No, in Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin.
Wow.
But
that's a big outbreak for here.
The one that's remembered more on this map that I'm looking at would be tornado number 31. That one hit the suburbs of St. Louis. And it's
that was the EF5, wasn't it? Or the
F5.
F5?
No, that was an F4. That was an F4 tornado in January of 67 in St. Louis. That killed people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. The first tornado that day was just before noon, and the last one was just past 8:30.
Wow, that's a pretty long duration event.
All the tornadoes killed only 3 people, but injured 216. But the big tornado, the 3 people that were no, stop. No, it was 7 people were killed in the tornado.
Mm-hmm.
3 were killed in St. Louis, and 1 person died in Iowa, 1 in Illinois, and 2 others died in Missouri from a separate tornado.
Wow. But
what is remembered most about 1967 was there's all these tornadoes they talked about.
Right.
This is what was mentioned. So listen to this. This sounds a bit crazy. 6 days before this event, the temperature in Des Moines was 13 below zero.
Wow.
And then 6 days later, it's 62. But then what is remembered more about this, what happened a couple days later, was considered the worst snowstorm in Chicago. If you go back and look at that, look up blizzard of 67, which is actually the same storm. Because what happened is, and I looked this up, I did a whole thing about this. Here you have storm coming in, okay? Tornado. Mm-hmm. Cold air came in. What happened is the front stalled. Another pressure came up, and then all of a sudden everything snowed. There's in this storm, and I have to go back to look at it again. This storm dumped, let me see, I'm going to try to think. Burlington, where there was tornadoes around Burlington, they had 13.5 inches of snow a couple of days later. 36 hours later, in fact. Chicago had 20 inches in 24 hours.
Wow.
So 60. You can go from tornadoes to snow. Oh wait, we did that. That was December. See, this has already repeated itself. I mean, we've had tornadoes and snow. I mean, this is it. And what do I call it? Winter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in Iowa, you have to be prepared for tornadoes, blizzards, ice, rain, anything. We don't get much sunshine. It's never sunny anymore. But we've rambled almost 2 hours almost.
Yeah, and my phone's about to die. It just popped up at me.
Yeah, so we're gonna end it before Matt's cell phone dies.
Yep.
So if anybody wants to get a hold of me, they know where it is. iowawx@gmail.com for email and iowawx on Twitter. Matt, do you want to do your spiel of how they can get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me on Twitter at WXBoy. Facebook, just search my name, Matt Chess. Feel free to shoot me emails, matthew.chess, SCHIESS, @gmail.com.
And you can, and he'll take any donations for new cell phones.
Donations, I do take cards. I love checks as opposed to most others. I do like checks. Of course, cash is always best. Cash is always king.
Oh, brother, we're causing trouble. Anyway, so thanks everybody for watching this whenever you're doing this. Hopefully, if it's on a summer day, you're getting nice cold vibes from us because it's not warm outside. So.
Yeah, my feet, I can't feel my feet anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'll replay this when it's 100 degrees and remember that it was cold. So thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week, and thank you and goodbye.